Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedwa. Here are stories making the headlines beyond the continent. We begin in war-torn Gaza, where a senior official of the UN Mine Action Service on Friday said there are some 37 million tons of debris to clear in Gaza once Israeli offensive is over. Hamas said it was impossible to say how much of the ammunition fired in Gaza remained live. He said starting from a hypothetical number of 100 trucks, that would take 14 years to clear away.
We know that typically there is a failure rate of at least 10% of land service ammunition that is being fired and fails to function. What we do know is that we estimate 37 million tons of debris, which is approximately 300 kilos of debris per square meter. 65% of the buildings that have been destroyed are residential buildings. An estimation has been done based on the current number of tons of debris in Gaza. And with 100 trucks, we're talking about 14 years of work with 100 trucks. So that's based on that figure, 14 years to remove with approximately 750,000 workdays, person workdays to remove the debris.
If you have to take a guess about Gaza.
In the meantime, some Palestinians have returned to their destroyed home in the devastated southern Gaza city of Han Yunis amid the ongoing conflicts between Israel and the Hamas movement. The returnees said they were tired after several months of displacement and struggle in the camps.
كان عندي 3 غرف وكان عندي حمام ومطبخ وصالون. راح المطبخ، راح الصالون، الغرفة البنات كله اتدمر، بس أنا سترت حالي بحالي زي ما أنت شايف كيف أنا سترت حالي، والحمد لله إني بطبخ ومكيف وعايش وكأنه ما في حرب عندي.
ورجعت على ركام بيتي زي ما أنتم شايفين، يعني فوق الركام عملنا خيام وسكننا فيهن فوق الركام.
والله احنا ثابتين يرجعوا والله ما يرجعوا ثابتين في مكاننا. لأنه تعبنا من التشريد 7 شهور احنا مشردين ومبهدلين في المخيمات. فأصرينا نرجع على المكان تبعنا على أنقاذ بيتنا نعمل.
Meanwhile, in war-torn Gaza, medicine is scarce. Doctors managed to deliver a baby by a C-section while her wounded mother was dying. However, it was later revealed that the newborn baby saved from her dying mother's womb in the war-battered Gaza Strip has died. Sabrine Al-Raw was the only surviving member of her immediate family after she was delivered by cesarean section while her mother lay fatally wounded from an Israeli strike at the weekend.
تم استخراج الطفل من بطن امه بعمليه قيصريه. طبعا فقدنا والدته ووالده واستشهدوا كل افراد عائلته. هو ما زال على قيد الحياه، وان شاء الله نامل من الله عز وجل يعني بالمتابعه وبالعلاجات وباجهزه التنفس الصناعي انه يضل على قيد الحياه. والله وضعه الصحي لسه ما زال على جهاز يعني مش تنفس صناعي كامل، ولكن هو بنسميه جهاز سباب. لسه نفسه تعبان، ويعني مراقبة حالته الصحية ووضعه الصحي موجود عندنا، لكن لسه لم يستقر وضعه. الكادر الطبي وصل لدرجة الإنهاك بعد 200 يوم أو 7 شهور، داخلين في الشهر الثامن. إنهاك يعني بشكل مستمر، وعدد الحالات كبير جدا جدا، بما أنه محافظة أو مدينة رفح يعني فيها أكثر من 100 أو من 1,400,000 نازح.
Away from the Middle East war, let's tell you that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he raised concerns with China about support for Russia, saying Moscow's invasion of Ukraine depended on Beijing's support. In his words, Russia would struggle to sustain its assault on Ukraine without China's support. Blinken said this while addressing reporters after his meeting with top leaders in Beijing. He also stressed he felt Beijing can play a constructive role in the Middle East, pointing towards China using its relationship with Iran to urge against further escalation in its confrontation with Israel. And to talk about this in detail, I'm joined by a foreign policy analyst, Bolu Michael B. Good evening. Glad to have you join me, Bolu.
Good evening. Nice to be here.
Right. Now, how significant is the accusation by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that China's supply of critical components to Russia is fueling the threat to Ukraine and European security in the context of ongoing tensions in the region?
Well, it's very significant because it reflects the mood of the United States as regards, probably showing some level of frustration in terms that they're not seeing much progress in their effort in Ukraine. They're probably not seeing returns as they expected. However, I feel it's very important for the United States to come clean because they can't be accusing China of something they're also guilty of. In law, we say ex dolo malo non resurrectio, which means that he who must come to equity must come in clean hands. And US, they're even they're more liable in the sense that China, they're just providing parts that allows Russia to be able to produce ammunition. But the US, on the other hand, are actually providing the ammunition to Ukraine. So they are even more liable, so to speak. And China, of course, will always see their own economic interest because they just want to make the money. They are just doing business with Russia. If Ukraine approaches China as well for ammunition or parts, they will sell to them. So I think for China, it's just business interest. For US, it's more than that.
Now, what mechanisms are available or even diplomatic channels are available for the U.S. to pressure China into halting its supply of critical components to Russia? And then what are the potential consequences that could arise if China fails to comply with the U.S. demands?
Okay, I think the first thing would be they should seek how to negotiate. They should try to negotiate with China. They've met, Blinken has met with Xi Jinping, and also last November, I think Xi Jinping and Joe Biden met. So the US and China, they had like two high-profile meetings within the space of 1 year, which is a good sign and a reflection that they have a strong bilateral, relationship. So they should try to explore the negotiation that they've been having, and also maybe mount pressure on countries or leverage international alliances, and countries that have the ear of China can put pressure on China for them to comply. In terms of implication, it does have economic and political implications if China does not listen, in the sense that it might strain their relationship, and it might heighten the geopolitical tension in a way.
Now, just to follow up on international community you made reference to, how do you think China's cooperation with Russia in supplying critical components affects relationships with other global powers such as European Union and also NATO member states? And what implication does this have for broader international security dynamics?
The NATO is an alliance, same as the European Union. So it's a one for all. They're both one for all and all for one institution. So it will strain the relationship of China with these other international organizations or blocs, because they will see them, the EU and NATO will see them see China as enemy of progress. And I believe China would not want to tread that path, because they would want to protect their own economic interest with other European Union countries. They have a lot to lose if they don't have a good relationship with Europe or even with NATO countries. And if in any way, by any means, they decide to pursue their objective, it will lead to things can escalate and lead to the severance of political tie and just increase international instability. And I hope that does not happen.
Now, let's talk about the complexities of U.S.-China relationship, looking at economic interdependence and also competition. How likely is it that U.S. will follow through on its threat to take action if China does not see support for Russia's military efforts in Ukraine?
Well, it depends on the severity of the situation there, and also the perceived threat in a way. The US also will try to protect their own interests. So if they see that their interest is being threatened in any way, there's a chance that they might want to follow through, with their intentions. But I believe they will want to tread softly, because they would want to consider the bilateral relationship that they have. They don't want to sever that tie, because these are two two heavyweights in the international scene, and it can lead to international instability. Even the crisis that we are seeing with Israel and Iran, some thought it was is going to be the beginning of a third world war. Now imagine if China and the USA, NATO, EU are having a major face-off. That's major international instability. So I think they will consider these factors and weigh their options and try to ensure as much as possible that things do not escalate. So I think the US would want to tread softly if they ever want to confront China in any way.
Well, time like this, they will tell. We'll just have to wait and see how things unfold. But thank you so much for your insight on the news. Bolu Michael B., Foreign Affairs Policy Analyst, thank you once again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're watching Beyond the Continent. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. Beyond the Continent continues in Europe, where a UK court on Friday granted conditional bail to two men accused of spying for China in a case which has heightened Western concern over claims of aggressive China espionage. British police charged the pair on Monday. On the same day, investigators in Germany arrested 3 German nationals suspected of sharing information on maritime technology with Beijing. Appearing in central London court, 29-year-old Christopher Cash of East London and 32-year-old Christopher Berry of Oxfordshire, central England, were not required to enter any pleas. Himself and Barry are both accused of an offense under Britain's Counter-Espionage Official Secrets Act. At a brief hearing, Magistrate Paul Goldspring ruled both men could be released on conditional bail, with Cash ordered not to contact UK lawmakers or to enter the parliamentary estate. Meanwhile, Beijing on Friday said claims that Chinese spies were operating in Germany following 4 arrests were pure fabrication. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said this during a press briefing. He said China has already made stern representations to the German side over the baseless accusations. On Thursday, Germany's ambassador to Beijing said she had been summoned by Chinese authorities over the arrests of 4 Germans on suspicion of spying for China.
所谓中国间谍案纯属无中生有，中方已就德方的无端指责向德方提出严正交涉。我们要再次强调的是，中方坚决反对针对中方的污蔑抹黑，要求德方对损害双边关系的企图保持警惕，加强约束，立即停止恶意炒作，停止反华政治闹剧，切实维护双边关系稳定健康发展。
Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev has defended his legitimacy as the host of COP29, saying having oil and gas deposits is not the country's fault. Speaking in Berlin on the last day of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue, Aliyev says his country's oil and gas will be needed for many more years. Azerbaijan will host COP29 in November, with a former oil executive serving as conference president.
Oil and gas deposits is not our fault. It's a gift of the God. We must be judged not by that. We must be judged by how we use these reserves for the development of the country, for reduction of poverty, unemployment, and what is our target with respect to green agenda. Our oil and gas will be needed for many more years, including European markets.
2,4 Billionen US-Dollar jährlich werden laut der Independent High-Level Expert Group on Climate Finance bis 2030 für die Transformation in den Entwicklungs- und Schwellenländern benötigt. Das ist eine gewaltige Summe. Und weil wir hier unter uns sind, unter Freunden und Gleichgesinnten, will ich den Elefanten im Raum auch ansprechen. Öffentliche Gelder allein, dazu von einer überschaubaren Gruppe von Ländern, werden für Investitionen in dieser Größenordnung bei bestem Willen nicht.
Talking elections in India, where electoral officials sealed ballot boxes at a polling station in Mathuru as the second phase of the country's marathon 6-week-long general election comes to a close. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is widely expected to win a 3rd term in the vote, which ends in early June. But turnout in the first round last week dropped nearly 4 points to 66% from the previous election in 2019. Analysts have long expected Modi to triumph convincingly in this year's vote, an assessment outwardly shared by his ruling Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party.
हाँ ये तो है, पूर्व में भी हमने मतदान कराया है, तो जिस हिसाब से 1 घंटा में पोलिंग होनी चाहिए थी उस हिसाब से कम पोलिंग हो रही है। इसमें गर्मी का तो असर है, गर्मी का असर है थोड़ा सा, तो उस हिसाब से कम पोलिंग है अभी। पूर्व में जब कराते तो लगभग 60 से 70 वोट हो जाती थी एक घंटे में। आज जो कि 25-26 वोट के आसपास हो पाई है, थोड़ा सा कम है परसेंटेज, जो कि होना चाहिए था और अच्छा।
गर्मी चाहे कितनी भी हो, उसको वोट डालनी है तो डालनी है। गर्मी तो है भाई, जैसे कि हम आए वोट डालने और भी भाई बंदा आए, सब डालते हैं वोट, जिसको डालनी है वोट वो डालेगा।
ये हाँ थोड़ा ठंड में हो तो ज़्यादा बढ़िया है, नवंबर में या फरवरी के आसपास।
In the meantime, the village of Satabhaya in India's Odisha state now lies largely abandoned as its buildings are gradually claimed by the tide. Rising seas, driven by both climate change and upper river dams, have affected several coastal settlements in the state. Hundreds of Satabhaya's displaced former residents have been officially recognized as climate migrants. Last year, the Odisha government announced funds for a resettlement colony 12 kilometers inland, but life for the new arrivals is tough.
ସବୁ ଭଲ ଥିଲା ସମୁଦ୍ର ବେଶୀ ଦୂର ଥିଲା ସେ ସମୁଦ୍ର ବେଶୀ ଦୂର ଥିଲା ସେଠକୁ ଏଠି ଚାଲିକି ଆଇଲା ବେଳକୁ ଆଇଲା ହେଇଗଲେ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ସେ ସମୁଦ୍ର ବାସିକିରି ପଳେଇଲା ସେଥିପାଇଁ ବର୍ଷ ବନ୍ୟା ବାତ୍ୟା ଲାଗିଲାକୁ ସବୁ ଭଲ ଥିଲା ଘର ସବୁ ଭଲ ଥିଲା ବେଳକୁ ରାଗ ଦୁଃଖ ହେଉଛି ଘର ଭାଙ୍ଗିଲେ କୋଉଟେ ଥିବ କୋଉଟେ ଘର ଭାଙ୍ଗିଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ କ'ଣ କୋଉଟେ ଥିବ କୋଉଟେ କହୁନୁ କେମିତି ବଞ୍ଚିବ ଘର ତ ନାହିଁ କୋଉଟେ ରହିବ।
By 2050, projection is that we are going to have 45% of the coast under erosion influence. So that means it was not there earlier, now it is on the path of increasing. Right. So global warming and climate change are having direct impact on all these, because the forces from the side of the sea are becoming stronger. We are having stronger waves and these are coming to the shore, causing erosion.
In South America, at least 10 people were killed on Friday in a fire that broke out in a defunct hotel being used as a makeshift homeless shelter in the city of Porto Alegre in southern Brazil. Images show the 3-story building engulfed in flames as firefighters battled to extinguish them. Emergency workers confirmed 10 victims at the site, which was operated without proper authorization. Governor Eduardo Leite said the fire, which broke out around 2 a.m. local time, had left him deeply upset.
O incêndio atingiu aqui o imóvel na madrugada, houve uma intervenção rápida aí das equipes do Corpo de Bombeiros, que acionaram as demais estruturas, como a Defesa Civil Municipal, a Brigada Militar, o Instituto Geral de Perícia, enfim. Desse incêndio aqui nós temos a confirmação até o momento de 10 óbitos, e outras 8 pessoas que receberam atendimento. Uma delas...
In North America, Guatemalan authorities have raided the offices of the international organization Save the Children in what the prosecutor's office said was part of an investigation into alleged abuses against minors. A spokesperson for Save the Children confirmed that officials had entered its offices in Guatemala City but declined to give more details. The state prosecutor, Rafael Kuruchiche, said the operation was the result of a transnational investigation of great significance since it concerns actions that could be related to violation and abuses against Guatemalan children.
El caso inicia derivado de una denuncia a través de la cual se pone de conocimiento del Ministerio Público que han estado cometiendo presuntamente algunos hechos en contra de la niñez y adolescencia guatemalteca. Eso obedece que la Fiscalía ha iniciado esta investigación, la cual continúa en desarrollo. Bueno, la denuncia refiere que hay algunas organizaciones no gubernamentales que tanto en Guatemala como en Estados Unidos participan dentro de aparentemente...
USA track and field is expanding maternity benefit for athletes. The national governing body disclosed this, offering more support for women returning to elite-level competition. Athletes currently receive stipends and insurance for 1 year after pregnancy ends through the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, so long as they intend to return to top-level competition. The announcement came after years of advocacy by retired American sprinter Allyson Felix, the most decorated woman in the Olympic track and field history, and other athletes for greater maternity support. Felix called out her sponsor Nike in 2019 for refusing to guarantee she would not be financially penalized if she was not her best around the time of birth of her first child. And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduga. It's bye for now.